Can you be you when your thoughts aren't your own? Today, as always, men fall into two groups: slaves and free men. Whoever does not have 2/3 of his day for himself is a slave, whatever he may be: a statesman, a businessman, an official, or a scholar. Friedrich Nietzsche. Remember the time when you graduated and your grandfather told you to be yourself and take the world by storm? All through our childhood, we have been waiting to grow up into adults who can be anything they want. But there's one problem. We can't. We are too scared to be ourselves and follow our true inner calling. None of us imagined adulthood to be like this, right? So what was the change? What made the always curious kid who wanted to poke his hand in the wall electrical outlet to know what happens next turn into an adult whose daily life schedule can be skeletonized as wake, work, sleep, repeat, without any curiosity to explore our true potential and finally be someone that we truly are? Believe it or not, the answer is much more obvious than it seems. You have been brainwashed since childhood into believing that you cannot think for yourself. Right from your parents, teachers, elder siblings, and other adults around you have made you believe that you're too weak to make a decision for yourself, that you're too weak to be yourself. Mother knows best. This is something every young adult has been hearing since the beginning of all creation. Disney even went further to include a song with the same lyrics in its 2010 movie Tangled. Ever since our childhood, we have been told that we don't know what's right, that we can't think for ourselves. But those who have watched Tangled must be knowing that in reality, all that the witch mother wanted was to stop Rapunzel from having thoughts of her own, in order to prevent her from knowing what she can be when she becomes herself. Fending for the young ones is an inherent part of most cultures all around the world. It's not a punishment and obviously not an act of oppression. In fact, taking care of your children is a good thing, but the problem arises when parents start imposing their ideas and thoughts upon their children, thus crippling their ability to question, inquire, measure, and think. There are a number of covert ways in which the young and susceptible human mind with enormous potential is brainwashed to believe one single truth and follow one single path. Every one of us must have had that one experience where we wanted to do something as a kid, but the people around us said that it was a foolish idea, as you were too young to think for yourself, just like they were told by their predecessors, and so on. Doing so only kills the child's ability to think and confines them to a small shell of everyday routine that everyone thinks to be the safe choice. As someone who has just stepped out of their teenage years, it can be pretty confusing and even horrifying when people say, "Be yourself," as a life advice for the road of hardships lying in front of us. It is because we as a society are constantly failing at letting children be themselves anymore, by constantly making them realize that they are too street weak to even think for themselves. Every decision, right from the first co-curricular activity in preschool to the choice of jobs after high school and colleges, is influenced by the parents and other adults. Granted that life is too short to make mistakes of our own, and we as humans have evolved by conforming to what others do and to think as others think, accepted that a modicum of conformity and experience sharing is something of paramount benefit. But it is equally true that conforming to everything and giving up our own independent thought process has proved to be the demise of big societies and dynasties. It is when people step away from popular thoughts and beliefs and think for their own that the human race prospers. Earlier, it was the church's belief that our earth was a flat disk at the center of the universe, and all the heavenly bodies revolve around us, and that all those who dared to go against this notion were publicly executed on behest of disrespecting the church. Had it not been for the conformity-smashing thoughts of Galileo and Copernicus, we would have been stuck with the crippled ideas of astronomy and physics. Ralph Waldo Emerson effectively surmised this with his quote, "To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment." American philosopher and bestseller author of the book The Confessions of a Misfit, Mikokama Mokonohana acknowledges most people do not have a problem with you thinking for yourself as long as your conclusions are the same or at least compatible with their beliefs. What most of us perceived in our childhood as a utopia where we would be able to choose for ourselves, fend for ourselves, decide for ourselves, and most importantly, think for ourselves, has actually turned out to be a dark dystopia, where people are ostracized if the outcome of their thinking doesn't resonate with a majority's perception. This leads to the most important question. Can you be you when your thoughts aren't your own? This is a simple question with a simple answer. No. So, how to be yourself in a world which won't let you be? The answer is think. Don't make up your perception on something based solely on how others describe them to be. Investigate everything like that curious child with the electrical outlet, and then think of the results and outcomes with a mind clear of any pre-developed notions. And before you know it, you'll have achieved your greatest achievement. You'll become the real you. Nothing can be a more fulfilling ending to today's discussion than this quote by Rita Mae Brown. I think the reward for conformity is that everyone likes you except yourself. After all, the mistakes you make while being yourself are much less troublesome than those you make while pretending to fit in someone else's shoes.